The Silver Peaks Mall in Aspen, Colorado, didn't just smell like Christmas. It smelled like money. The air was thick with the scent of expensive pine candles, roasted chestnuts from the gourmet kiosk, and the crisp, sterile aroma of new credit cards being swiped. Outside, a historic blizzard was raging, dumping 2 feet of snow on the Rockies, turning the world into a white void. But inside, under the massive glass atrium, it was a golden paradise of consumerism. 12-foot wreaths hung from the ceiling, dripping with Swarovski crystals. The sound of Michael Bublé crooning White Christmas played on endless loop, competing with the chatter of wealthy shoppers carrying bags from Gucci and Prada. In the center of the grand atrium stood the North Pole Experience, a lavish fortress of fake snow and velvet ropes where children waited to meet Santa Claus. The line was a parade of designer winter wear. Little girls in velvet dresses and boys in cashmere sweaters held lists filled with demands for the latest tablets and gaming consoles. And then there was Timmy, standing at the very back of the line, trying to make himself as small as possible. With 7-year-old Timmy Miller-Dot in a sea of red velvet and green satin, Timmy looked like a bruise. He wore a denim jacket that was 3 sizes too big. The cuffs rolled up to reveal thin, pale wrists. It was unlined, offering zero protection against the Colorado winter. His jeans were frayed at the hems, soaking up the melted snow from his canvas sneakers that had holes in the toes. Timmy didn't have a list of demands. He wasn't holding an iPad. He was clutching a crumpled, wet flyer he had found on a community board. It was an advertisement for a winter coat sale at the department store on the 3rd floor. He wanted a coat, not for himself, but for his mother. He didn't want a transformer or a video game. His mom, Sarah, had been coughing for weeks. The heating in their trailer had been cut off 3 days ago, and she had given Timmy her only thick blanket. Last night, he had heard her crying from the cold. Timmy had walked 3 miles in the blizzard to get to the mall because he believed in the magic. He believed that if he could just talk to Santa, the real Santa, maybe a miracle could happen. He stepped forward as the line moved, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The mothers in line pulled their children closer, casting judgmental glances at Timmy's dirty clothes, as if poverty were contagious. Timmy kept his head down, focusing on the golden tassels of the velvet rope, praying that Santa wouldn't turn him away. The man sitting on the golden throne was named Frank, though his name tag said Santa Claus. Frank hated Christmas. He hated the noise, he hated the sticky hands of children, and most of all, he hated that his acting career had led him here to a shopping mall in Aspen, wearing a fake beard that smelled of mothballs and stale peppermint schnapps. Frank checked his watch surreptitiously under his red sleeve. 20 minutes until his break. 20 minutes until he could go to the loading dock and smoke a cigarette. He took a sip from a flask hidden inside his water bottle. The burn of the cheap liquor made him feel slightly warmer, but it didn't improve his mood. Next, Frank bellowed into his headset microphone, his voice booming through the atrium speakers. A little girl in a sparkly dress ran up, asked for a pony, took a photo, and left. Then came Timmy. When Timmy approached the throng, the elf assistant, a bored teenager named Kyle, hesitated. He looked at Frank, then at Timmy's dripping shoes leaving puddles on the pristine white fake snow. "Go on, kid," Kyle sighed, waving him forward. Timmy walked up the red carpet steps. He didn't run. He walked with the heavy, cautious steps of a child who has learned that the world is a fragile place. He stood in front of Frank. He was too afraid to sit on his knee. Frank looked down his nose at the boy. He saw the dirty jacket, the wet hair, the poverty. He wrinkled his nose theatrically, while Frank boomed into the microphone, ensuring the entire food court could hear him. "You're a bit of a mess, aren't you? Did the reindeer drag you here through the mud?" A few parents in the line chuckled. Timmy's face burned. He stepped closer, his voice a whisper. "Santa? I have a wish." "Speak up, boy," Frank shouted, leaning back in his throne. Santa can't hear you over the sound of how distinct you smell. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Timmy's eyes filled with tears, but he swallowed them down. He held up the crumpled flyer. "Please, Santa," Timmy whispered, his voice trembling. "I don't want a toy. My mom is sick. The heater is broke. She needs this coat. It's on sale upstairs. Please. If you bring this, I promise I'll be good forever." Frank snatched the wet flyer from Timmy's hand. He looked at it, then looked at Timmy with a look of pure disdain. "A coat?" Frank sneered. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with malice. "Listen to me. Kid. Santa brings toys to good little boys and girls. He doesn't run a charity service for people who can't pay their bills." He crumbled the flyer into a ball and tossed it over his shoulder. It landed in the fake snow. "Santa visits houses with chimneys," Frank announced to the room, his voice amplifying the cruelty. "He doesn't visit trailer parks. Now, get out of the way. You're holding up the line for the nice children." Timmy stood frozen. The words hit him harder than the blizzard outside. Santa doesn't visit trailer parks. The hope that had carried him 3 miles through the snow shattered instantly. He looked at the ball of paper on the floor, his mother's only chance for warmth. He looked at the crowd. Hundreds of people. Wealthy parents, happy children, store clerks. They all watched. Some looked uncomfortable, shifting their shopping bags. Others looked annoyed that the dirty kid was wasting time. But not a single person moved. Timmy's lip quivered. A single hot tear escaped and tracked through the dirt on his cheek. He turned around, head hanging low, humiliated to his very soul, and began the long walk down the red carpet steps. If your heart breaks for this injustice, if you believe that every child deserves kindness regardless of their parents' bank account, please take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Let's show the world that the Christmas spirit is about love, not greed. Timmy reached the bottom step, ready to run out into the cold, when the floor began to vibrate. It wasn't the bass from the Christmas music. It was a mechanical, guttural roar coming from the main entrance of the mall. The glass doors slid open, letting in a swirl of snow and wind. And through the white haze, they walked in. The Avalanche Kings, there were 50 of them. They didn't look like mall shoppers. They looked like mountains carved from granite. They wore heavy leather cuts over thermal flannels, their beards encrusted with actual ice from the ride. They were shaking the snow off their shoulders, their heavy boots thudding against the polished marble floor like war drums. They had just finished their Toys for Tots run, and they were freezing, tired, and looking for coffee. But as they walked past the atrium, they stopped. Their leader, a man named Grizzly, had heard everything. Grizzly was 6'7". He had a scar running down his left cheek and arms, as thick as the Christmas tree trunk. He raised a hand, and 50 bikers stopped instantly. The silence in the mall was sudden and terrifying. The Christmas music seemed to fade away. Grizzly looked at Frank, sitting comfortably on his throne. Then he looked at Timmy, shivering at the bottom of the stairs. Grizzly didn't walk to the coffee shop. He changed course. He walked straight toward the North Pole Experience, stepping over the velvet ropes as if they were cobwebs. 50 men followed him. The sound of their boots was louder than the storm outside. Frank, seeing this wall of leather and ice approaching, suddenly looked very small on his golden throne. He fumbled with his microphone. "Ho, ho, ho. Can I help you, gentlemen?" Grizzly stopped right in front of Timmy. He knelt down on one knee, ignoring the wet floor. The entire mall held its breath. "Hey, little man," Grizzly said. His voice was deep, like rocks tumbling down a canyon. He reached out and gently wiped a tear from Timmy's cheek with a rough thumb. "I heard what you asked for. That was a mighty brave thing to ask." Timmy sniffled, looking up at the giant with wide, terrified eyes. He said Santa doesn't come to trailer parks." Grizzly stood up slowly. He turned to face the throne. His eyes were cold enough to freeze fire. He walked up the steps, the wood creaking under his weight. He stopped inches from Frank's face. The smell of stale alcohol on Frank's breath met the smell of gasoline and cold air on Grizzly. "Is that right?" Grizzly asked, his voice low but carrying to every corner of the silent atrium. "You think Christmas has a zip code?" Frank was shaking now. I was just joking. "It's a character. I'm in character." "You're in the wrong chair," Grizzly growled. "Get up." "I what?" Frank stammered. "I said, get up," Grizzly repeated. He didn't raise a fist. He didn't have to. The sheer pressure of his presence was enough. Behind him, 50 bikers crossed their arms in unison. The leather creaked. Frank scrambled out of the throne, tripping over his fake boots, and nearly fell down the back stairs. He ran toward the exit, his hat falling off, leaving the golden chair empty. Grizzly turned back to the crowd. He looked at the wealthy parents who had laughed. They all suddenly found their shoes very interesting. Then, Grizzly looked at Timmy. "Come here." Kid. He lifted Timmy up and placed him right on the golden throne. The seat was too big, but Timmy sat there, stunned. "Listen up." Grizzly shouted to his crew. "Viper tank, go to that store upstairs. Get the coat. Get the biggest, warmest one they have. Get gloves. Get boots. Get boots. On it." "Boss," 2 bikers yelled, sprinting toward the escalator. "And get one for the kid, too," Grizzly added. "And a toy. Whatever he wants." Grizzly turned to the elf assistant, who was hiding behind a prop snowman. "You, take the picture." The assistant scrambled to the camera. Grizzly stood next to the throne, putting a massive hand on Timmy's shoulder. The other 48 bikers crowded around, filling the frame with leather, beards, and genuine smiles. Timmy didn't smile for the camera. He beamed. For the first time in his life, he felt like a king. 10 minutes later, the bikers returned. They didn't just have one coat. They had bags. A down parka for his mom, a new jacket for Timmy. Boots. A heater. And a massive Lego set. Grizzly knelt before the throne again. "You got a ride home, kid?" "No," Timmy whispered. "I walked." Grizzly shook his head. "Not anymore. The sleigh is outside. It's loud and it doesn't have reindeer, but it'll get you there. They say Santa wears a red suit, but that year in Aspen, the real Saint Nick wore a leather vest and combat boots." The Avalanche Kings rode Timmy home in a convoy of 50 bikes, their headlights cutting through the blizzard. They set up the heater for his mom. They filled the fridge. They saved Christmas. As for Frank, the mall management fired him before he even reached the parking lot. Kindness isn't about what you wear or how much money you have. It's about how you treat the smallest among us. Timmy learned that day that family isn't just who you're related to. It's who stands up for you when the world sits down. So, I have to ask, if you were in that line and you heard what Frank said, what would you have done? Would you have stayed silent? Or would you have spoken up? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, be the reason someone believes in miracles. Merry Christmas.